Hi, everybody. I'm Wendy Porch. I've been around for a while. I guess I started at Arch 20 years ago, which is a long time ago. And I've worked at various places. I've worked at the University of Toronto's Adaptive Technology Resource Centre. I was a research fellow at the Open University in the UK for a number of years, but it's always been around access for people with disabilities. So I'm so pleased to be here as part of the first, where's Maureen? The first national conference, she's not even in the room, the first national conference on work and disability. This is spectacular, so thank you very much for being here. I'm kind of going back and forth on whether what I'm going to say is innovative or not, so I'll put it out there and you can tell me afterwards if it was. I'm going to talk about episodic disability and employment, and I would like to talk about flexibility as an innovation. I think for some people, episodic disability might be the innovation part, and for others, it might be the flexibility part. So maybe I'll even get two. Where I'm from, we call that a twofer. So let me know if I get a twofer. Okay, so just a quick bit about Realize. So who is Realize? We used to be known as the Canadian Working Group on HIV and Rehabilitation. QWIGR was the acronym. We're now known as Realize. We do pretty much the same work. We have a shorter name, which is really nice for me at presentations, I have to say. But what we like to do is we're a national nonprofit with a focus on the aim of fostering positive change for people who are living with HIV and other episodic disabilities. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about episodic disabilities in a bit. My area of expertise, my area of focus at Realize is on work and on income security. These two slides, I've just put them in the deck. If you'd like a copy of the deck, please let me know. We've done a fair amount of work around episodic disability and employment. These are just some examples of some of the work that we've done. We were involved with the original Navigating the Maze paper that I think, Emil, you were talking a little bit about this morning. We've presented at the UN Conference of States Parties on episodic disability, and we've done lots of partnering. That's the point of mainly those two slides. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit about episodic disability as a conceptual evolution. So the organization that I work at realized that with the changing nature of HIV treatment, so people in Canada mostly do not die of HIV. So you are given medication, you take medication that means that HIV is not a death sentence, but it does become a chronic illness or episodic disability. So what we have seen is that there are difficulties, though, for people who are living with HIV, and I'm going to talk about this episodic illness course. There are difficulties for people who live with HIV on fitting into kind of a binary understanding of disability that we have in Canada. So you're either disabled or you're not, typically. You can't have a disability some of the time and then not have it at other times. So since 2002, we've been bringing together partners who have a focus on thinking about episodic disability, and for groups that represent and work with and work on behalf of people who live with illnesses and conditions that have a similar kind of up and down trajectory. So there is no official definition of episodic disability. This is the one that we go with. Episodic disabilities are characterized by periods of good health that are interrupted by periods of illness or disability. These periods may vary in severity, length, and predictability from one person to another. The most important thing here is actually unpredictability. This is one of the critical pieces here, is that people can get up in the morning and feel okay, and then later on that day might not be able to walk. So how do you manage that kind of unpredictability in a work context? That's been a question that we've been engaged with for quite some time. In particular, so at work, this can result in intermittent work capacity. What is intermittent work capacity? What is accommodation in the context of intermittent work capacity? The Episodic Disabilities Network and Forum came up with a list of episodic conditions. This is just to give you an idea of the kinds of things we're talking about. So arthritis, asthma, lupus, HIV, mental health conditions. Often for people who are living with mental health conditions, there is this period of time where things are much worse and periods of time where things are better. Migraines, MS, all kinds of stuff. So this is a really big group of people. This is an episodic disability framework. This framework has come out of work that a researcher that we know has done with people living with HIV. You can see sort of this along the left-hand side, level of ability, and along the bottom is time and months and years of living with HIV. People are sort of going along. In this case, there's a trigger of an HIV diagnosis, and we see a drop in people's level of ability. So engaging with work, looking after family members, school. And then people kind of coming back up to a level of ability that they'd known previously through different kinds of coping strategies, and then another drop, in this case an opportunistic infection. This is out of work specifically, as I said, with people living with HIV. This kind of up and down and unpredictable, this can be the lived experience of people with any of those conditions that we're talking about. So it's not everybody that has those conditions that has an episodic course, but many people do. It can also happen in the course of a single day. So, Learning from Each Other project, there was funding that was given from the Center for Research on Work Disability Policy and the Office for Disability Issues at ESDC. The question that we wanted to engage with is, who are people living with episodic disabilities and what are their workplace experiences? The partners on that project included ourselves, Adele Fury at Adele Fury Consulting, Dr. Rebecca Gewertz at McMaster, Maureen Hahn at CCRW, and John Stapleton at Open Policy. So we had two methods. We queried the existing Canada Survey on Disability data, looking for episodic conditions, because there is no marker for episodic disability in the CSD, episodic conditions, and looking for work disability. So if they noted an episodic condition and they noted intermittent work capacity as sometimes or often, they were included in our research population. We also did an online survey that asked about individual experiences of episodic disability. We had 953 people from across Canada fill in the survey, which is incredible, actually. So this is maybe the innovation. So aside from the concept of episodic disability, when we think about disability as being static, what we found when we looked at the CSD, using our definition, of course, is that 82.4% of people, of the adult population, had an episodic disability, either as their primary condition or as their secondary condition. This means that what we think about when we think about episodic, or when we think about disability as static and staying the same, it's not true. Things change, and so this is a really significant piece, I think. Not everybody with episodic disability experienced intermittent work capacity, but many did. And we're talking about a population of people more likely to be women and living alone, actually. So the impact on employment. So 52.7% of people in our research population said it was their disability or health condition that caused them to be working part-time. They had changed jobs because of their health condition. They were engaging in teleworking or flexible work, or were self-employed, probably because of their health condition. They also experienced significant worries about losing their access to their drug plans if they were to go back to work, and subsidized housing. So the accommodations that people need are soft accommodations. So people report getting the most benefit from things like job redesign, modified or different duties, teleworking, modified hours or days, or reduced work hours. So we can see here that it's almost 60% of this population that's saying that the primary thing that they need is a soft accommodation. So the most challenging element, these are responses from our survey, so I want to go through them quickly, but you can see unpredictability is highlighted here, right? So this came up a lot for our research population. One of the quotes, unpredictability of symptoms, feeling like I'm letting my coworkers/students down because of fatigue, feeling frustrated, I want to do more of my job outside of work, disappointed because this is not the career direction that I plan to stay in. The uncertainty of day-to-day living, will I be able to eat or do anything today, and if so, for how long? So this is a significant level of unpredictability that people are encountering. So one of the questions that had been posed to the panel around innovation is, what is the most important service or support to persons with disabilities to maximize their employment potential? Flexibility. So hopefully this is the second innovation, and it's not new, but I wanted to just highlight that flexibility is actually critical when we're talking about people living with episodic disabilities. So flexible work practices can include things like flexible work schedules, as we said, the ability to change shifts, time off to attend medical appointments, or just to side effects. Many episodic disabilities can be in part because of side effects due to medications. Reassignment to work that is different. Opportunity to shift from full-time to part-time work. Some of the things that we've been talking about in conversations around this, banked work hours. I've heard of one company in the States where people can actually donate their sick days. So there can be a sick day bank that kind of collects sick days so that people who need them can actually access it after the fact. Job sharing, teleworking. So there are all kinds of ways that we can institute flexibility. It can be a formal accommodation process. It can be something that's identified. It can also be something that is arrived at outside of formal accommodations. And this is actually pointed at in terms of building the business case for employers to actively recruit and retain people living with mental illness. This is work that Emile and his colleagues have undertaken, funded by the Mental Health Commission. A lot of these conversations happen informally. So hopefully there's two innovations there, the concept of episodic disability, and just that flexible work is really critical. Thank you.
Thanks, Wendy.